already Monday morning, the 11th October. The reason is for that delay. But yesterday, on Sunday, we had a community meeting. An urgent one because of tensions growing among the residents of this Auroville place. And our meeting place is up on the covered terrace. It's an all open area. And there was a stone building. And in the middle of the meeting, big rain erupted. And everybody had to move quickly to the safer and drier place. And that meeting was in the middle of the afternoon and went on till the night. And that was quite enough. For me at least. So I had to back to today, whatever recording needed again to be done. And it does need to be done because I want to speak to you about the mother. We have left Sri Aurobindo in one of my first recordings, my first videos, where I was starting to tell his life, Sri Aurobindo's life. We left him in 1910 when he had come to Pondicherry. And that was a new, even much vaster period than what he had lived till then. We left him there because we had to catch up with the story of the other being he was to meet soon, who would come also to Pondicherry in the coming years. And the other being needed to partner and collaborate with him in this work for evolution of the entire Earth. In the meantime, you have seen how I met Sri Aurobindo through his first written works, and particularly that incredible first book called The Life Divine. This is how I met him while still in France as a young teacher, looking desperately for a worthy meaning to life itself on this terrestrial globe. I told you in some other videos briefly that soon after discovering Sri Aurobindo through his written words, speaking so incredibly to my own life, I was to discover that there was that other person he had worked with for evolution, and that he called the mother. And at that time, especially in a country like France and the whole Western world, one would say, the Divine Mother is something nobody talks about. So I also was quite puzzled for what he meant exactly by that way of calling that person, that French woman. I didn't even know at that time that she too was French. The way I discovered it was when, after starting to read The Life Divine and discovering quickly that somehow I knew already from within me the conclusions he was drawing and leading his readers through chapter after chapter. What I wanted immediately was books also about how to practice this yoga. And so looking for more books by this Sri Aurobindo, this is how I came back to Paris and to the area of La Sorbonne, where I had done my own studies to become a teacher in the classics. And I knew exactly in that area where to find the libraries with cheaper rates for students, where I could find more books by Sri Aurobindo. And then in those bookshops, maybe I said libraries, but that's a French way. Sorry for that mistake if I have done it a few moments ago. I was speaking of bookshops. And in the bookshops around La Sorbonne, I did find some more books by Sri Aurobindo already translated, although there were not so many. And then the people in the bookshop asked me if I wanted also something by the mother. I had no idea what that could mean, but I said, why not? But at that time also, hardly anything at all had been published from the, but once in Paris, I discovered the existence of the, how was it called at that time? It was not yet the AVI Center. That came up later in the history of Auroville. At that time, that I think the first center to speak of Auroville in another land was in France, in Paris, and it was called Auroville International France. So I found my way there. This is where I heard for the first time about Auroville. And then during my visit in that center, so I saw somewhere hanging a calendar for the year preceding. We were in the year 71. And this was the calendar, if I remember well, for the year 1970. And there was a picture, a photo of a lady, already aged, but whose eyes incredibly conscious. We are looking at you to the very soul. And her smile was irresistible. And under her face were these few words in her own handwriting. I immediately assumed that I was correct. It was her message to the world for the beginning of the year 1970. What was written was, the world is preparing for a big change. Will you help? I don't know if some of you listening to me have read the Asterix and Obelix series of Albert comics. When brave big Obelix sees the very pretty young Gaulish girl, Falbala, you can see him being absolutely transfixed all of a sudden, with kind of little stars starting to blink around him. Something just like that happened to me reading these words. Something in me straightened up, like in a thrust of energy and willingness and self-giving to what I had no idea, but I blurted out inwardly. Yes, Mother. It was my first contact with the Mother. My mind didn't understand a thing about it, but my being, I didn't been touched. I went back to my place as a teacher. In the meantime, I had gotten somebody to come and show us, right in the big place where I was teaching, some slides about the beginnings of Auroville as they were at that time, which was not much. Rather frightening. But still, in spite of my being scared totally, on the outer levels of my being, my soul was the strongest and pulled everything else, kicking and screaming all the way to Auroville in the half year which followed. But when I arrived finally in August 72, at Auroville itself, I had not read anything at all about the actual lives of Sri Aurobindo. So everything that I have started telling already about his life, I had yet no idea about when I myself arrived. I had no idea also, for example, that I was arriving in August 72, and it was a very month when would be celebrated the centenary of Sri Aurobindo. So that much I learned pretty quickly and gradually something about his life. But still, I didn't know really anything about him. And at that time, the mother was still in hospital. She was there. And one could, if one wanted, on one's own birthday, one had the opportunity, the possibility to go and be received silently by the mother herself in the ashram. But I must say that my first visit to the ashram as such had been a very bad surprise for me because I was totally new to India. I had no idea what ashrams are like, and I was quite shocked. I first of all saw all these people, you see, prostrated on this samadhi, big tomb that had been built in 1950 in a courtyard of the ashram to receive the body of Sri Aurobindo. And even more than that, I saw that in another corner of the courtyard, some people were apparently lifting their hands in prayer and adoration towards some windows up there in the higher levels of that building. And I came to understand that this was where the mother herself was living in her apartment. And again, that seemed so totally distasteful to me as a thoroughly Western person. I was still at that age, at least on the surface of my being, in my outer consciousness. And I couldn't understand at all how people are deemed remarkable. Sri Aurobindo and the mother could accept on the part of their disciples such a for me, unacceptable behavior. My goodness, is that the cult of the personality? What's going on exactly here? So I actually didn't go again to the ashram. I was very happy that I didn't apply to become part of the ashram directly, but rather part of Auroville. Still, I became friends with a few other French young people who had arrived before me, already a year or two before in Auroville, and were living in the same place where back then I was living too. And because life in Auroville itself was at that time still so simple, is a kind word. We had the habit, the three of us, plus a fourth person that I don't even remember who it was. We would go to Pondicherry on our cycles. Of course, at that time, no big motorbikes or cars like now are common everywhere around Pondicherry. Also for most of the local population, except really the poorest one. At that time, everybody was cycling around, and that was it. It was a normal. We saw to go to Pondicherry, you had to plan a whole day to cycle there and back, and be able to do in between whatever you had to do in Pondicherry. So part of our regular programs for the four of us was to meet at lunchtime in one of the only restaurants existing yet in Pondicherry. The other one was totally out of our financial means. And this one had an Indian traditional cachet to it still, which we really enjoyed, at least I did. The waiters still had the big turban on top of their white uniform and the gestures for serving, etc. That is part of the Indian way. So one day at lunchtime, at our regular weekly day of meeting there, I found the brother and sister who were my best friends at that time, and the fourth person that I couldn't tell anymore who it was. But on that day, the sister only was there. I didn't see the brother, so I asked the sister, where is so-and-so? She told me with bright eyes, oh, today is his birthday, so he went to see the mother. To be polite, I didn't say exactly how I felt. I remained silent, but I couldn't help feeling that, oh my God, they are also part of that way of doing things. I was disappointed. We started to eat. And in that place, there are two big entrance doors. And I happened to be sitting with my back to them. And at some point, while already eating, for some unknown reason, I turned around and looked back towards the door behind me. And oh, there was the brother. I could definitely recognize him, but at the same time, it was incredible. How he was kind of transfigured, standing still there on the threshold in such a silence and immobility that it seemed to shine out of him. And then as I kept looking, he slowly started coming inside towards our table. And it was just as if that incredible peace and silence and that were coming inside with him. And all the normal noise of the people eating, etc. In that Indian coffee house in the middle of narrow street, the main street in Pondicherry. It would seem as if everything had hushed to silence. Finally, he arrived to the table, sat down slowly, and without a word, remained with us for the rest of our meal. Then we all went away to our various activities for the afternoon and then back home in Auroville. But I couldn't help but feeling, wow, she has quite an effect on people, that lady. Yes, don't laugh, this is the way I was calling the mother then. Because I couldn't bring myself to calling her the mother, because I didn't know what it meant. That first incident with the brother, seeing in that most wonderful condition after his meeting the mother, impressed me actually so much that in some weeks later, I innocently asked the brother, sister, so if I understand well, for one's birthday, one can go and meet the mother. So one just goes and meets her there at the ashram. They told me, oh, no, be careful. For that to happen, you have to first, maybe 15 days before, you have to go to the ashram, to the reception, and ask that your name be written down on the list for that day of people that the mother will see. In one day again, I was kind of pissed off. See, the rebellious side of my nature toward administration and this kind of thing surfaced again violently, and I felt about administration even to go and see the mother. Well, they're not going to see me on their list. And I forgot completely about the whole thing. Anyway, my birthday was still a long way to go. And in the meantime, I happened to go house sitting on the beach, on one small plot of Auroville beach, where one person used to live, but needed to go more inside of Auroville for some time. And so for about 6 months, I lived there alone in that hut on that little place on the beach. It was quite beautiful. And I was hardly going anywhere at all, and lived extremely simply with nature all around me. Except that one morning, I get that strange feeling that I have to dress up, get on my cycle, and go to Pondicherry. My mom totally bewildered, argued that I have nothing to do with Pondicherry, and dismissed the idea. But it kept coming back. And sometime later, I indeed found myself dressed up and cycling towards Pondicherry. And only while on my way, cycling, suddenly it dawned upon me that today was my birthday. You know, in Western culture, at least in France, once you are an adult, your birthday is not really, at least at that time, it was not something as an adult that you would remember so specially. it was mostly for the kids as part of there would be a celebration, something. So in my little life, you see, out of every context on the beach, I had forgotten which date we were, and that it was my birthday. So while cycling, I thought, oh God, maybe indeed it is important that I see the mother. And when I arrived at the reception there, with my pet smile, I announced to the person sitting at the desk, good morning. Today is my birthday. I have come to see the mother. The lady there, the Ashram, told me, oh, wonderful, congratulations. So would you please tell me your name so that I can check it on the list of it? Actually, you will not find my name because I didn't come to put my name down. Oh, she said, but I'm sorry, but if your name is not on the list, you will not be able to see the mother. Now I was disappointed finally. And I tried to argue, to insist, to maybe I got a little angry. Maybe I came to some tears. But nothing to it. And in the end, I had simply to go back to my little hut on the beach, cycling, and telling myself, you stupid! Why didn't you go before and have your name put on that damn list? See now what has happened. And I got in peace with myself again, only when I promised myself that next year, for my next birthday, I will definitely put my name on whatever list was needed. I couldn't care anymore. I just see what was happening. And with that again, I forgot all about my birthday. And I spent a happy year without even noticing that the year was passing. Almost. But you can see how inwardly the divine had, with great art, intensified in me what had become an actual need, not just wish, but determination to see the mother. The rest of this story will take at least one more video, because it is an astonishing, big and huge way that the mother choose to give further shining. And could best benefit from it. And in a way, all my arguments could never find a way to deny or diminish. So I will leave it at that for now. But this will be an absolute turning point in my life again. With consequences and great results in my being. That have kept unfolding till now. And also very hard that all this series of little videos already done and to come wants to be a living testimony to a wider audience. Because it is not just the conscious disciples of Sri Aurobindo and others who are now benefiting from what happened here. Thanks to those two beings, Sri Aurobindo and others. It is a whole world. All of us human beings, humanity at large. So it is important that as many people as possible should come to know about what has been done. And I am only here to give my testimony to. So most probably my next videos will be the continuation of what I started telling in this one. Until then, I wish you a wonderful week. Oh.